I'm hearing this ticking noise.
Well, don't blame it on me.
Well, no, I'm not blaming it on you. Now we're live. People don't know what we're talking about. Oh, it stopped. There was a ticking noise on my a fast-sounding ticking noise on my headset, and then it seems to have stopped. Okay, anyway,
Check the box. Check the box that came in the mail today.
I got several.
Let's see if the ticking noise is coming from that.
Heat and humidity back into the in the northeast tomorrow. The old frontal boundary is creating some heavy rains and flash flooding across the lower Ohio and Tennessee Valley. And we've got heavy rains and flash flooding back in parts of the plains and the southwest. What will the weekend bring? And will there be a heat wave to rival the apocalypse next week? I don't know. All that and more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. So before we even get to the weather, I just want to share. I had Mr. Haney come over today to check my refrigerator, and I mean my fridge is 6 years. It's 6 years old, and it's dead. It's dead. It would cost something like $600 to fix. So I had to go out and buy a new one, which I did about an hour or so ago. I ran over to Home Depot. I told them, look, just show me what you got that I can get within a reasonable time frame, and preferably on sale. So I got a fairly good deal on a decent fridge. So I'm happy.
Maybe you could have gotten a good deal if they had a floor model that they were.
No, you know what? They don't do that apparently. Not with the big appliances. At least there wasn't anything now, and yeah.
And when is it going to be? When is it going to be delivered?
3 weeks from today.
Oh my God, Joe! So what you're going to do is you're going to be dealing with that little box that you bought, that little ice box.
I'll have to. Yeah, it's actually pretty roomy. I got everything that was in my freezer. I got in there, and I didn't even fill it up halfway. And on my freezer in my fridge, it was pretty full. It was filled almost to capacity. So there's a lot of room in there, and it's a little less cold near the top of it versus the bottom. So I put some things in there that if they lightly freeze is not going to be a big deal. I'll manage. If I managed 8 weeks with a boot on my foot and everything else that I've had to deal with in the last 10 months, I could last another 3 weeks without having a refrigerator. So anyway, welcome everybody to my daily shenanigans. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Hope you had a great day. And now, of course, it looks like we've got humidity coming back. It's already coming back. And we've got heat for tomorrow. The temperatures probably should get above 90 as long as we see enough sunshine, and I think there probably will be. And we're still on course to have a warm, it's not going to be a cool weekend, but it's going to be a warm but low humidity weekend. And then, of course, the big question for next week, still trying to figure out, Joe, are we going to have the big heat ridge that's been sitting in the middle of the country all summer long and kind of going, vacillating back and forth? Is that going to couple with the Bermuda high and create a super heat wave here in the Northeast, or is it going to be something far less sinister? And I only bring it up because I only bring up the sort of apocalyptic end to it because I was looking at some of the European high temperature forecast numbers. I don't know if you got to see them today for next Friday. No. Oh, okay. So let me put them up on the screen. So these were really almost, I don't even know how to describe it, almost laughable in a sense. But the European, of course, to showing that sort of that coupled big ridge. So these are some of the highs that we have for next Friday. 102 in Yonkers, 98 for New York City. I don't know how it got away with just 98. Bridgewater, New Jersey, 106. Trenton, 103. Philadelphia, 100. Allentown, 103. Scranton, 99. Middletown, Joe, Middletown. Are you sitting down for this? 107. Poughkeepsie,
Whoa.
Poughkeepsie, 108. Albany, 107. Waterbury, Connecticut, 107. Hartford, 109. Providence, 110. Worcester, 106. Boston, 102. Lowell, Mass, 106. Let me just go a little bit further to the north. Let's just go a little bit further to the north just to see what kind of shenanigans it's doing up in northern New England. I didn't even check that.
Let's see what Norton.
Yeah,
Norton, what's the temperature, Norton? What's the temperature? 111.
yes, exactly. Rutland, Vermont, 102. Manchester, New Hampshire, 105. 106 in Lewiston, Maine. Bangor, 101. I mean, these are just insane numbers. I mean, you really have to have an absolutely. You'd have to have that 600 plus ridge in the exact in the perfect spot in order to get that. Now that was last night's European run. We could take a look at today's, which is well. I mean, it still has. It's low a little. It is lower in Maine actually. Lewiston 97. Rutland, Vermont, instead of being over 100 now, is 91. So let's drop down a little bit further to the south and take a look here for this is for next Friday. So Albany now 98. Okay. Poughkeepsie 101, Middletown 101, Yonkers 101, New York City 97, Bridgewater 104, Trenton 103, Philadelphia 102, Toms River 100. So I mean, I'm just gonna throw out the 104. And by the way, Hartford is 102. Providence went from 110 to 98. I mean, this is because on the latest run, the European did not couple the ridge, and the GFS to an extent also doesn't couple the ridge. It keeps them somewhat separate. So that's really what will separate it from being, let's call it, very hot to extreme compared to say extreme heat with lots of brutally hot with extreme heat and lots of records going by.
Crazy.
No,
I mean, what is the all-time? Now it would be interesting to see what the all-time temperature records are at all of these places that you mentioned. I'm sure that Providence, Rhode Island, has never ever hit 110 degrees. So
yeah,
this show may be there may be science fantasy coming
yeah.
up.
And this is I'm putting the 500 up. So just want to explain what do I mean by coupling here. So if we watch, we're looking at the upper air for the end of the week, and we've got this trough that's going to go by. Okay, it goes out. It leaves us in warm but at least some lower humidity over the weekend. And then as we go into next week, there's some light troughing that at least lowers the jet early next week, only to lift right out. And you can see the big ridge on Thursday. This is Wednesday night. Okay, the upper high. I actually have this map that's left over from yesterday, what I've drawn on it, but they kind of match up for the same thing. So the H out in the ocean here, there's your Bermuda high, your Bermuda Azores high, and here's your high that's been sitting in the lower Mississippi Valley, lower and middle Mississippi Valley and plains on and off all summer long. And when I say they couple, you can see here they've sort of joined together, and the upper high actually migrates to the east. By the time we get to Thursday afternoon, it's sitting somewhere in Ohio. And here's your Bermuda high. So here's your, this is the whole ridge here is all connected. And any cool air from Canada is deflected way to the north, so that's not even an issue. But this would set up a really hot scenario for, not only for next Thursday, but also you'll be getting into it next Thursday, but particularly next Friday, which would wind up being the hottest day. Now, you go from this on the 0Z run. So now I'll switch over to the 12Z run, and you'll notice on the 12Z run as it comes in that there not only is, I mean, the upper high is there, Joe, but look at this. It's much more. This is where it was on the old run, the way I have it drawn here in red. But here it is on the new run. Let me just clean this up a bit. The high is flatter, and it's sitting right in the middle, right in the middle of Missouri. You got your Bermuda high that's out there, but they're not connected in the same way. And then the northern jet is very close by. It's not. It's still pulled up fairly far to the north, but it's much further south than what it was on the prior run. So this is really the big question with regards to next week in terms of how the heat evolves. Are we going to have that Bermuda high and the heat ridge over that's in the United States? Are they going to join forces to produce some really large temperature numbers late next week, or are they going to remain separate? And yeah, it's hot, and it's humid and it's sticky and all the rest of it, but it's not going to be extreme. It's not going to be those crazy numbers that what I just showed you a little while ago.
Yeah, well, what we're looking at, Joe, what you're looking ahead to, and what you're suggesting would certainly be one of these historic spells of heat. Not so much in terms of the actual temperatures itself. I mean, we've seen triple-digit temperatures here, but this could be a prolonged spell of extreme heat. And I was looking way, 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 way ahead, and was thinking that the next chance for anything to break from the extreme temperature spreads would be around the 11th of August.
Right.
This is going to make this really so. What basically we're saying or alluding to is enjoy this little bit of dry, comfortable, albeit warm weather coming our way for the weekend, and then we're going to slowly but surely see it all go stale on us, so to speak, for the early part of next week, building toward extreme heat and very oppressive conditions humidity-wise by the end of next week. And once we're into that, that may not break until, again, around the 10th or the 11th of the month of August. So this looks like we're going to be into a really, really tough time coming our
Right.
way.
And by the way, I'm looking at the new GFS, the latest GFS run, which actually wants to bring a shortwave out of the Canadian, southwestern Canada, and move it along and sort of hook it up with an upper low in James Bay. It actually has a trough approaching on that Friday, and it's got some troughing that's running from Labrador southward into Ohio. And instead of having the ridge coupled the way it is, it actually brings the jet down, and you've got the one upper high that actually migrates back to Colorado, and the Bermuda high just sort of flat east-west from the southeast U.S. on eastward out into the open waters of the Atlantic. I mean, this would suggest that next Friday we'd have hot weather, but we'd also would have some kind of cold front approaching and moving through. And then after that, there's still the heat ridge in play. When we go into after that goes by, it remains hot behind it because it's a very weak shortwave that goes by, and then the ridge builds back in for the weekend of the 7th and 8th. The 6th and 7th. It starts to build in on the 7th and then on the 8th, and you got the big heat ridge in play on the 8th and the 9th and the 10th, and then maybe a front coming through along about the 11th, and then the heat ridge comes right back. So I think. I think as far as late next week, again, the big question is: Are we going to have this coupling going on with the both ridges just kind of merge into one and push the Canadian jet all the way to the north to where something winds up being, as we said, extreme, or are we going to have something that's going to be just hot or very hot, and there'll be something in the flow that'll keep it in check? And that's a question we're not in a place yet to answer.
They were talking about, they being the folks at the Climate Prediction Center, they were talking about extreme heat buckling all the way back west into the Pacific Northwest. And now it looks like if you want to allow for some sharing, I want to show you the risk of hazardous temperature map that they have put out, valid for August the 4th through August the 10th. And if you love
Yeah,
hot weather,
knock yourself out.
you're going to just absolutely be head over heels with this.
By the way,
This is
I'll just point out real quick that the Ann Sambles, you know, remember Mrs. Ann Sambles?
yes.
We look at her more in the wintertime than we do in the summer, but Mrs. Ann Sambles would suggest that the coupling is the more likely solution. Perhaps not as extreme as what was shown by the models, but there was going to be some coupling of the two ridges. But that's the ensembles for you. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But for now, we do either way. It's going to get hot again. It's just a question of, is it going to get hot? Is it going to get very hot? Or are we going to have a day or two of and are we going to have a day or two of extreme heat in the mix?
Well, as you can see on the screen for the Climate Prediction Center, they are red flagging August 4th. August 4th, that's a week from tomorrow, as the beginnings of our next wave of heat misery, if you will, for everybody, going all the way back as far west as central Montana, central sections of Wyoming, central Colorado, and right on down into eastern New Mexico and much of Texas, continuing that all the way east to practically the entire central and eastern United States. Excessive heat, just a slight risk in this zone here that I'm pointing out right now. Then we have a moderate risk of excessive heat, which would run from that Thursday, August the 4th, on through into August the 7th. That would be Friday, Saturday, so Sunday. So Thursday the 4th through Sunday the 7th, a moderate risk of excessive heat, which includes our area. And then right here in this zone, they right now feel that there is a high probability of excessive heat. And I'm assuming that excessive heat would mean 95 to 100, or heat indices of like 105, 110, maybe even 115. This would include, I want to get a close up here of this. This includes Chicago. It includes portions of southern and western Wisconsin, southern sections of Minnesota. I'm not sure if Minneapolis must be in here somewhere. Also Iowa, northern sections of Missouri, also much of Illinois. So this is the region right here, right smack in the Midwest, right smack in the nation's midsection. That excessive heat goes from, well, it's only a one-day thing, but still, Thursday, August 4th to Friday, August 5th. This is where it's really going to be exceedingly hot, even more so probably than what we're going to see here, maybe. And again, it would seem that that 2/3 of the country next week are going to be under the gun by next Thursday and Friday for the possibility of temperatures in excess of 95 degrees, and maybe in many cases, possibly 100 or more. It's going to be really rough, and all of that coming your way about a week from tomorrow.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Yes, lovely. So Johnny Quest uh, asks an interesting question, and his question is, if the two ridges were to couple, or if you have or if there's when the two ridges couple together, there might be a weakness between the two, and if there were a tropical system in that weakness, would would that become an issue? Well, oddly enough, the European model was trying to signal something off the southeast coast in its long range back a few days ago. And I noticed on one of the runs, I think it might have been the overnight run, that there was some hint of something in between the ridge offshore and the heat ridge out to the west. It would seem to me that, and also we should mention that it is now the model has moved away from that particular signal. Okay, so from that standpoint, it doesn't appear that at least right now, and I'll bring up the GFS uh, uh, to just kind of illustrate this a bit better. We're showing this on Wednesday here on the upper air. So moving along, now the GFS on the new run doesn't really have, it tries to couple it, but it kind of misses the mark. So the question is whether somewhere off the southeast coast in between the two upper highs, could you get something that either forms there or takes advantage of that alleyway? Yeah, I mean, in theory, if there was a tropical system coming in, say north of Puerto Rico and north of heading for the Bahamas, it would go around that weakness. Odds are, because if you notice, by the way, uh, up to the north, at least close by. I mean, we do have upper air west to east winds. They're not that strong at all. They're on the weakish side, but anything that would form in here would probably come into those, and then you'll get a system that winds up recurving out. I think the bigger issue that is the fact that there isn't really much out there that suggests that there is going to be something tropical developing anytime in the next week or so. So, until I kind of look at it as, I mean, the way I look at it is, you wait till something forms and then worry about it. But for now, even though there were some slight hints by the European that maybe something might try to form somewhere between, say, Bermuda and the longitude of Bermuda and the Bahamas sometime next week, the models have kind of backed away from that idea.
Yeah, it's what we've been saying all along, that when you look beyond 3 or 4 or 5 days, especially when you see very anomalous, very unusual situations, it's not very likely to verify, because these off the wall situations usually we end up with something a little bit more tamer or a little bit more different, but still. Uh, from this point on, it would appear, Joe, that we are looking at conditions that are going to be translating into a return to exceptional heat and humidity by the latter part of next week. So, what can you do?
Yep.
You can't do anything or say anything about it. You just have to grin and bear it, and we'll hopefully all get through it.
The satellite loop is taking on what I would refer to as that. You start to get into August, and uh, things tend to get messy looking on the satellite, because you have a lot of daytime heating going on. You're getting showers and thunderstorms. Oftentimes, you get a good few feet of tropical air that gets involved in some places. Uh, it's not quite there, but you can see the action. All those flashes are all lightning strikes that are occurring right now. We have some active weather this evening in North Carolina, in western North Carolina, some active showers and thunderstorms there. We have a fairly hefty looking area of showers and storms with lots of lightning strikes moving across Kentucky at the moment, central Kentucky. Also, some stray cells in southern Missouri and northeastern Oklahoma. There's a little bit of disturbed weather in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, but there's nothing of consequence there at the moment, other than the fact that you've got clouds and some scattered thunderstorms. And busy with showers and thunderstorms in the southwest. But at least right now, not a whole lot of severe weather going on. And by the way, the radar an hour ago had much more going on back over in parts of Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and a lot of that stuff fell apart. There's some stray cells moving across Pennsylvania at the moment, central and western PA, to about I-81. There's some stuff aloft along the New Jersey coast, so that's not even reaching the ground probably. There are your storms in Kentucky, firing up in a line, and the occasional severe thunderstorm warning there. Down in Florida, we don't have a whole lot of activity going on in Florida. It looks like some storms in and around Orlando, some showers and storms winding down in South Central and Southwestern Louisiana, also back in parts of Texas along I-10. There's your line in southern Missouri. Looks like the most active line, where we've got a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, two in Kansas that now has become one, and one that appears in Missouri. By the way, it's 7:55 Eastern Time, so if you're watching this, obviously all of this is dated as far as the satellite radars are concerned. So when it comes to severe weather, please go to weather.gov and punch up your local National Weather Service forecast office to get the latest weather information. The Southwest, they're really doing well here with all this rain, Joe. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of flash flood warnings up in New Mexico and in Arizona and southern Nevada. And in fact, I'm going to bring up the watches and warnings map because we do have virtually the entire state of Arizona in a flash flood watch, and southern Utah. A good chunk of Colorado is in flash flood watches, and western New Mexico. Also, we've got flash flood watches in eastern Kentucky, northeastern Tennessee, southwestern Virginia, and central and southern West Virginia, because they're still sitting in that east-west frontal boundary, and they're likely to see more rain going forward. And we should also point out that up in the Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of heat advisories and excessive heat warnings that are up there. So no one is being spared the heat completely this summer. It has now worked up into the Pacific Northwest, where there hasn't been a whole lot of it there, but now they have it there too.
Right. I had mentioned that a few moments ago, or some minutes ago, that the Pacific Northwest under the gun with extreme heat, but all of that looks like it's going to be shifting eastward in the days to come, and coming into our neck of the woods by, again, the middle and latter part of next week.
The Storm Prediction Center tonight, you can see the marginal risk area from a small portion of the middle Mississippi Valley across the lower Ohio, upper Tennessee Valley, into the Appalachians, the central Appalachians, and to the coast. Southernmost New Jersey technically is in a marginal risk all the way down into North Carolina. The next 2 days, unless they add an area of slight risk, I don't know if they will, but they've got marginal risk tomorrow, a small portion of northeastern Pennsylvania through the Catskills, upstate New York, and central and northern New England, and also, again, southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, so basically the lower Ohio and Tennessee Valley and the middle Mississippi Valley. We have general thunderstorms being indicated from just south of where the marginal risk line cuts off in upstate New York all the way down to Florida, and then most of the country is at risk for some scattered thunderstorm activity tomorrow. And then for Friday into Saturday morning, we have a marginal risk on Friday. They've got it as far north as Sandy Hook to about Allentown, and then it drops southwestward. So Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, into Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas, and northern Mississippi. In a marginal risk. I don't know if this is going to get pushed up a little bit further north. I don't have a good feel for Friday's cold front and how active it will be. I don't know what your thoughts on it are.
Well, it's certainly, we can use every little bit of moisture from whatever we get over the next couple of days. The last time I had any measurable precipitation here in Putnam Valley was a week ago last Monday, when we picked up 0.7 of an inch. It has been absolutely bone dry since. And from what I can see on the, 7-day QPF map, Joe, from WPC, it seems to me like at most, we might be getting maybe a quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
Over the next couple of days. It doesn't look like a whole lot. Now, meanwhile, Ms. Spellerite on the chat board says, they really do need the rain in southern Missouri. Huge drought conditions there. Well, from what I could see on that 7-day QPF, some parts of southern Missouri could pick up between now and next week, maybe upwards to a half a foot of rainfall if it all pans out the way the forecasts look right now. So a lot of places that are in desperate need, even more so than us here in the New York or the tri-state area. A lot of places that really do need rain, looks like they are going to get it over the next 7 days.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the new GFS running through this. It's funny. There hasn't been a whole lot that different from run to run, other than the question of how hot does it get. But as we turn into a more humid air mass tomorrow. I threw in, Joe, that there could be a scattered shower or thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon or evening. Probably the best chances will be inland and north, and also to the southwest, down in Virginia and Maryland, for example, and then maybe northeast PA into upstate New York. Then on Friday, with a cold front coming, the GFS actually is fairly bullish with some shower development. It has downpours developing early Friday afternoon, and then some showers and thunderstorms running around Friday evening. So the GFS kind of argues that we'll probably see something out of this on Friday. Then that goes by, and of course you still have that east-west boundary across Virginia, North Carolina, westward all the way back into Oklahoma and Kansas, producing showers and storms on Saturday. That actually sinks a little bit further south as the day goes on because of the dry higher pressures to the north. It's not much of a high, but it's something. And then as we head past Sunday, looks like we start to transition a bit going into Monday and then starting on Tuesday. Now here's where it starts to get a little squirrely here with the GFS, because there is some kind of frontal boundary that comes through on Tuesday with some showers and storms, but the air behind it is actually probably hotter than the air ahead of it. Maybe the dew points come down a little bit when we start to see those temperatures rise like we saw this week on that one day back a couple of days ago, where the dew points dropped down. We had the temperatures over 100 with dew points down close to 50. Maybe that'll happen again after one of these systems goes by. But I'm looking at here Thursday and Friday. I mean, there's really nothing through Thursday. And then it's got something approaching late in the day on Friday with a 1029 high, Joe, over Lake Superior that builds in for the weekend of August 6th and 7th. I mean, this would kind of argue a significant break in the heat in the heat next week actually coming on Friday, next Friday, after you get a hot day, you get thunderstorms and the front goes by, and then another dry, less humid and cooler weekend, because if it goes to 100 and then the highs are only in the 80s, technically that is cooler. So I think in terms of the long range, the way to look at it, in my view, is we know it's going to get hot. As I said earlier, does it get in the Northeast? Is it going to get very hot or extremely hot? Are we going to see, a chance for some record-breaking heat? Not able to answer that question yet. It's too complicated, and we have to see if those upper highs don't get together. It's going to allow the Canadian jet maybe to come down and bring something through and give you some humidity relief and maybe even some temperature relief to an extent at some point in that stretch. It's very hard, by the way, and you can certainly, I think you'll agree with me on this. Streaks of 90 plus highs are hard to get. It's very hard to get beyond 3 days or 4 days without having some kind of frontal passage to going by. That's why these 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-day, 12-day long heat waves of 90 degrees plus just don't happen very often up here, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've seen cases where we've had exceedingly hot temperatures. In fact, there was one year, I think it was maybe 1988, where I think Central Park set a record high temperature in the afternoon, and then the very next morning, in the aftermath of a sharp cold front that dropped the temperatures and also brought in a lot of showery rains, that the next morning the temperature actually recorded a morning low. Maybe not Central Park, maybe it might have been Atlantic City or something, but I do remember like the incredible switch between a very hot day versus a rather coolish night. And it has been known to happen, and it could happen. It might happen. Maybe it'll happen, but not likely to happen later
Right.
next week.
Well, we know one person that is happy about this, and that is David Fuller, who hit Super Chat tonight. Thank you, David. He says, I'm so glad that the humidity is coming back. I'll be at Sandy Hook tomorrow and Friday. I'll take an ocean temp. Tomorrow, hopefully 80 degrees for the ocean water temperature. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be the better day than Friday, David. And I think we have another one, another Super Chat here.
Leon Probitsky hit Super Chats.
Thank you, Leon.
looks like a cat with two fans that's having a fit.
Oh yeah, I'm just seeing it now. Yes, it is having quite the fit. And the chairman, Scott Briller, who's always out doing his hospital job tonight, just hitting super chat. So thank you very much, Mr. Scott. And I think on that note, I have Les Jeopardy de Brillar somewhere here. Um, where are we? Okay, okay. So you ready, Joe? Tonight's category is weather records for Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, within
Oh,
within 5 for credit. And by the way, if just as a side note, if you've never been to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, put it down on your list of places to go. I think it's one of the prettiest places along the East Coast, in my never to be humble opinion. Gorgeous beaches and it's just a lovely place. And if you go in August, because it's a big vacation place for folks in the South, but everybody goes back to school here in the beginning of August. So it's actually cheaper if you were to rent a house or get a place, get a condo or whatever. It's actually cheaper once you get into the month of August. The prices drop by about at least a third, or at least they used to. Maybe it's changed, but I know when I went, I haven't been there in about 10 or 11 years, but I've been there 4 or 5 times, and it used to be you get into August and it gets cheaper. So on that
it's a
note,
it's a skinny little spit of island, really, that is virtually surrounded by water, right? It's
yeah, and it's not. It's mostly residential development. It's not, really. It's not overdeveloped by any means. It's not like the Florida East Coast. You don't have these tall high-rise buildings or anything like that. It's all mostly residential homes and some 2 or 3 story condominium units, and that's it.
okay.
So they have, and then of course you've got the national seashores on both sides up near Cape Hatteras, and then by the lighthouse, and then also the northern part where they got the wild horses running on the beaches, which is really cool. Okay, what was the highest temperature ever recorded, Joe, in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina? The highest temperature ever recorded.
Oh, well, as I just said, I mean, since they're virtually surrounded by water, that should certainly serve as a way to temper any exceedingly hot reading. Let's say Elizabeth City, which
Right.
is inland a ways. Elizabeth City might get to like 105, 106 or something, but Cape Hatteras on the Outer Banks, I would think it's going to be a little bit cooler. So I'm going to say, whoa. um, I'll take a step. 96.
Oh, very good. You only missed it by one. 97 on June 27th, 1952. And your margin of error was 5, so that's very good. Okay, now what was the lowest temperature ever at Cape Hatteras? And and
But
and, and I'll give you
once again,
the hint is that it is above 0.
it is above zero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're not looking at anything like -5, except if, of course, if you're looking at it from the Celsius standpoint, then it is probably below zero. No. Um, well, again, the water acting to serve as to modify the climate or might modify what otherwise would be exceedingly frigid conditions as you go inland. So, how about um, how about 6?
The answer is 6 on January 21st, 1985.
How do you like
You got
that?
that on the nose. What was the greatest one-day rainfall?
Oh God! Well, since they literally stick out into the ocean, and so any kind of tropical system or hurricane could easily bring them a heavy amount. Is the 1 day rainfall?
One-day rainfall.
God, that could be anything from like 5 to 30 inches. All right. I just said 5 to 30. How about we take the mean of something like that? Uh, how about 18 inches?
Uh, 14.3 on June 30th, 1949. And before we get to the
Wow.
last question, I just want to acknowledge Michael McGuire hitting super chat tonight and saying, "Hey everyone, routine daily showers and thunderstorms since the 4th of July weekend." For where he is, I think Michael, if Mike's, you're in South Carolina, Michael, I think. If I got that wrong, forgive me. My brain is not where it should be lately, considering everything I've been dealing with. Okay, and the final question, Joe, is what is the most consecutive days that Cape Hatteras has had a temperature below 32 as a high temperature?
Oh, how about I'll say 3.
And you would be correct on the nose at 3. It's actually a recent occurrence. It was in January of 2018 that happened.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
Now, isn't that
that's
exciting?
something that I'm surprised that the chairman did not provide a question concerning snowfall. Like, what is the greatest amount of snow that's ever fallen there at Cape Hatteras?
Yeah, because
And
it
I don't
it
know. I
really
don't
doesn't snow very often there. I mean,
But when it
every once in
does,
a great while, but yeah, I think I seem to recall something in the last couple of years, last several years, that there was a snowfall where the Outer Banks got a fairly, relatively speaking, a sizable snowfall. I just, don't ask me when exactly. It just seems to be in my memory bank. Uh, uh, but these days, when things in my memory bank come forward, to the front, they don't oftentimes have all the complete information. I feel like the robot on Lost in Space.
yeah, somebody pulled the power pack out.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly, exactly. All right, so I think that pretty much sums it up for tonight. I didn't see anything worth ranting about today, other than the fact that I had to buy a new refrigerator.
yeah.
Really, it's like it's 6 years. My mother's refrigerator, okay? My mother's refrigerator lasted in the house that uh, this is the 19. I think the refrigerator lasted 30 years. 30 years, Joe. Okay, and these days with these appliances, you're lucky if you get 5 out of them.
Well, we just had this past fall, I believe in October, we had both the washing machine and the dryer replaced
Yes, I remember.
from 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 uh, from Home Depot. I believe, or was it Best Buy? I don't remember. I think it was Best Buy, or maybe it was Home Depot. I don't know. But whatever it was, remember, there's certain things like just, I can remember things like that, and there are other things that just like a fog. But I do remember that it took like a week or 10 days for it to finally be delivered.
Hmm.
And you know, you're right. You're so dependent upon these appliances. So I wish you luck with your 3 weeks of waiting
Yeah.
until you get your new
I,
refrigerator.
I'll be all right. It's a similar to the one I have. It's a little, mine had the one here. It's got all these gadgets on it, and I really didn't. I never used the gadgets. I really didn't need them, so I just assumed I got something that was, let's say, a little bit less complicated, and it was on sale, so that made me feel better. Excuse me. All
All
right.
right. So we'll be back tomorrow, and then after tomorrow, we're off through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday of next week. Correct?
Yes. Tomorrow is Thursday, so yeah. So we're going to be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We are taking a long weekend. So after tomorrow, our next show will be next Tuesday. So mark that down on your calendars where you keep your very busy schedules. All right.
Yes.
So everybody have a great evening and a great night. Thanks for being here as always. It's nice to see folks coming, rain or shine, quote unquote boring weather or exciting weather. They're here every day, and we appreciate that greatly. So enjoy, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Night, everybody.
Good night, folks.